So Asher is chilling out right over there. He's laying down, just chilling, not really sleeping yet, but he will. He'll get there. Don't worry. So cool. So let me know everything sound okay and everything. So welcome everybody. So it's Monday and I'm not at work. I'm homesick. So I thought, I got an hour to kill. Why not hang out with y'all? So here we are, hanging out with y'all. So what's on your mind? What do y'all want to talk about today? I have a pretty massive to-do list here and there, getting ready for HeavyCon and how all that is going on. So yeah, just working on that because HeavyCon starts a week from Wednesday. Technically a week from Thursday, fine, but a week from Wednesday because we have our pre-con night at a local brewery and excited about that. So cool. All right, good deal. Glad to hear everything sounds good. Glad to hear y'all. So what's on y'all's mind? I mean, I'm here. It's me and Asher, and he doesn't make for great conversation, so I'm leaving it up to y'all. Sick or sick of working? Not sick of working where I am currently working, so I'm putting in my resignation tomorrow. Extremely nervous about that, to be honest. Excited about it because I do think it's the right thing to do. At some point, respect means more than the paycheck, and it's not like I couldn't get another job, but I'm going to take a couple months off to be a full-time content creator in the meantime, between basically just before HeavyCon begins, HeavyCon, through Origins, through WBC, and then evaluate and see where things are at that point and make decisions at that point whether or not I want to get back into aviation. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to get back into aviation, but whether or not I need to, or whether or not the show will be self-sustaining at that point. So we'll see. But yeah, that's where that is. So tomorrow's going to be a very unnerving, very scary day for me, but I'm looking forward to it at the same time, if that makes sense. So it's just something that needs to happen. It's gotten to the point to where it's untenable right now. So there's that. Good. And I wanted to do this for European folks as well during the day, so it makes sense, right? Let's see. How did you go about meeting our game group? Andrew asks. So we were a part of another game group actually within our neighborhood, and really good people. And it just so happened that we started to trend heavier and they started to trend lighter, and so we kind of diverged. And our game group started out as hey, do you guys want to, instead of just playing games as one-offs, do y'all want to do a game of the month? And so that started, and from that blossomed, and this is before the show ever existed, and that's where our game group started. And we don't really promote it much. I mean, obviously people now know about us from the show and the YouTube channel and everything like that, but it's just, hey, I like these type of games, so we invite them over to our house. And so far there's only been one really uncomfortable person that problem took care of itself. Everyone else has been pretty amazing. We know we are extremely fortunate with our game group. We have a regular core of about 12 folks, and we have more that come around, once every month, once a quarter or whatever, that live further away. But we have a core of about 12 folks that come around for any given game day. So we're talking, we're going to have 3 full tables of various games going, and that's definitely not the norm. I understand, but we're appreciative of it. Let me tell you, because let's face it, these folks are in our game group are invaluable part of the show. Even if they're not on the podcast, they help us get these games played. But the live streams, right? I mean, you guys see where I'm at right now, and without them, it'd be a lot of 2-player live streams with me and Amanda. And well, obviously Matt lives with us now, so he is a all but semi-permanent part of the show as well. But you get what I'm saying. We are very, very fortunate to have the game group that we do. So hopefully that answers that. Andrew says, yeah, Card City. Yeah, I figure I would promote a couple of the games that we're going to either be talking about on the show coming up soon or live streaming. So yeah, thought that'd be kind of cool. So there you go. Let's see. Yeah, no, the throat does not hurt, so we're all set with that. All right, Simon's asking about Indonesia. When will we be playing it? Well, there's not going to be a ton of live streams between now and HeavyCon. We're getting ready to put on a convention, and that obviously is taking priority right now. The podcast will go on every week like it has. That's not going to change. In fact, this week we are going to be talking. We're going to be reviewing The Colonist on this Thursday, and then PAX Renaissance next Thursday, which actually drops the first day of HeavyCon. But to get back to your question about Indonesia, I'm thinking not the probably, and let me look at a calendar real quick. Give me just 1 second. I would say, you know what? Maybe we do it either on my birthday, which is June 8th, which is a Thursday, or sometime that week we'll be live streaming Indonesia. We're also going to be giving away the copy that we're playing of Indonesia during that. So yeah, definitely tune in for that. And what are our thoughts on it? We reviewed it. It's a Hall of Fame game. It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, there is no other game out there that does what Indonesia does. And a lot of Splotter games, actually, you can say that they're their own animal, which is awesome. That's so hard to do nowadays. Whereas, you can see games to where, oh, this piece comes from this game and this piece, and it's not normally the case with Splotter games. So if you want to call us Splotter fanboys, I guess we just like great games, and they happen to put out a lot of them. But to answer your question, Indonesia, I don't know. Are you supposed to call it the first week of the month? Because technically the first, second, and third are Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It won't be those days. It'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of the 4th through the 10th. How's that for Indonesia? Cool. Print and playing out of print games, right or wrong? If they're out of print and there's no reprint announced or hinted at, or fill in the right words here, Joe. If it's for personal use, who's getting hurt? Where's the problem? I see zero problem with that. You're not selling them. You're not making them, to distribute. You're doing it so you can enjoy the game. And what I would recommend for folks that print and play out of print games like that is, if you enjoy the game after you've print and played it, if and when it does come back into print, do right by the designer / publisher and buy an actual copy. It's a win-win. You get to enjoy it in the meantime, and you get to support them if and when it becomes in print again. I don't see a problem with that for personal use. Zero issue with that. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, and he says later, 1860, 1862. Go for it. I don't think anyone would have a problem with that. Again, it's for personal use. Where's the issue? It's not like you're taking money out of somebody's mouth. And yeah, I have no problem with that. Live streams during HeavyCon, Todd. It depends on how good the Wi-Fi is. This is what I will promise, is we're going to have a ton of pictures and, this really nice camera that we were able to buy thanks to those folks, our patrons. We're going to have that with us. We're going to do interviews. We're going to shoot a ton of video while we're there, and we'll put it together the week following HeavyCon. And so worst case scenario, we'll have that up. Best case scenario, we can live stream some stuff, but it all depends on the strength of the Wi-Fi. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Yes, Matt. Let's see. Jeff says, "Hey, Edward, thanks for answering the answers on the last Q&A. Sorry, doubling up the question. Oh, you're fine. Don't sweat it, man." So for those that are reading the chat here, Matt is the Matt that's our roommate right now. Brian O, that's the guy from The Best Thing of Hero Quest. Not really, but he looks like it. He's a part of our local group, and yes, I do feed you guys pretty well. So it's a fair trade. You guys come and play games so we can talk about them on the show and live stream them, and I feed you. So it's a win-win, right? Will we be bringing some goodies to Spiel if we ask? Yorick asks. Yes, i.e. T-shirts and stuff. You won't have to ask. We're going to bring them. So there's some question about whether or not we're going to run a Kickstarter between, say, around the September time to help build up the show as well as get it to where I can produce the content full time. One of the one of the levels that we're considering is we'll be Essen mules for you. We'll be your personal shoppers for Essen. So that's one thing that we're thinking about doing. But to answer your question specifically about T-shirts, absolutely, we're gonna have a ton of T-shirts. The important thing there, Yorick, is that you guys buy them so that we have room to bring our games home. Okay, because we won't have room for the shirts and the games. Priorities. So help us, help you, help us, right? Oh, hey, Amanda's there. Hi. Shouldn't you be working? Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I appreciate, all y'all watching, but that's awesome that y'all are taking time out of your work day. Or if you're overseas, I guess let's see, I guess it's about dinner time or so, y'all's time. So thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Andrew asks, I remember hearing the heavy card, good thing I don't talk, right? Heavy cardboard origin story that you filled in a void in coverage that you felt. As you've gotten into covering games, have you uncovered any other areas lacking in coverage? Man, I mean, really, it's the stuff that we cover, and there are more and more people that are joining us in this, which is fantastic. I mean, so the medium and heavy strategy games, war games, and 18xx, and there are, I mean, you have Kyle from a Dual Gauge podcast, and who poached Tony. No, I'm kidding. Tony and Tyler help him out with that podcast, which is awesome. So there's some more 18xx coverage. Board Game Blitz, Ambi, she touches on 18xx. If we can ever pull her and Toby away from playing rolling stock ever again. So I fully expect when they come to HeavyCon next week that it's all rolling stock all the time. I only somewhat kid. But I'll be honest. I mean, you got people that focus on Kickstarters. You have the latest, greatest. You have casual games. You have 5-minute reviews like the 5 what is it, I'm drawing a blank, but I subscribe to them, the 5 by podcast. That's horrible. I'm sure you guys will correct me, but there's a ton of quality podcasts out there now that I think it's getting. I love that our niche, not our niche, but you know what I'm saying, the niche that we cover is starting to get more widely accepted, and it's becoming less niche, which means there are more publishers that are willing to take the risk on some of these bigger games. When you look at the success of Arkwright between Spielworks and being a pretty massive reprint by Capstone Games, you look at the success of Food Chain Magnate and Splotter, you look at how well some of the big games from Eagle Griffin have done on Kickstarter, from Vital. You're talking the Vinos, Lisboa. I mean, a lot of these bigger games are starting to really get a lot more mainstream, not approval, but mainstream interest. And I see that as only a good thing. So have we uncovered any other areas lacking in coverage? I think the only other thing really is something that I've started to do in a recent, I want to say it was 2 episodes ago, was the long form interviews, like what I did with Cole Worley, designer of An Infamous Traffic and PAX Premiere and the upcoming John Company. I think that is something that I enjoy doing. I feel like I'm getting better at it and I have a knack for it. So that's something that we're going to delve more into as well. But honestly, I think the hobby's getting a lot of great coverage. The trick, though, is do these shows, be it YouTube, be it podcast, be it whatever, do they stick around? Because let's face it, it's a lot of work. Not complaining, mind you, but anybody who's in the media or content creation or however you want to word it, they don't really appreciate how much work goes into this stuff behind the scenes. Like doing stuff like this with y'all, or whether it's recording the podcast or the live streams, that's the easy part. It's all the emails. It's all the stuff behind the scenes that, is a lot of work. So I just hope people stick with it, but it's a lot of work. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm loving how much, just how much choice people have. And by people, I mean gamers like me. I mean, let's face it, I'm a gamer just like y'all, right? It's just I happen to have some equipment and the wherewithal to actually put it out there, I guess. All right, let's see. Joe, yeah, we're gonna have plenty. We actually just put in a massive order of t-shirts for Origins and stuff. So yeah, so we will definitely be hooking all that up. What about UK Expo? Maybe next year. One of my bucket list things for the show and just personally is I want to go and interview Francis Tresham in a long form interview face to face. And if we go to UK Games Expo next year, that is something that I intend on doing. So we'll see how that goes. Again, it all depends on what am I doing for a living at that point. Forbidden Stars video on the schedule. The good news about that is with me putting in my resignation tomorrow, I'm going to have plenty of time. So I will promise you that it will be sometime in sometime in June. I don't want to promise more finite other than that, but I promise in June. So yes, don't worry about that. I've promised that to the folks that asked on Reddit, and I will follow through. So let's see, the dice must flow. A couple questions as a content creator myself. What type of camera are you using for this and other videos? And does your mic plug into the camera or is it just recorded? All right, so let me go geeky technical for a couple of minutes to talk about all our equipment here. So the camera that I am using right now actually is just one of our player cameras that we use during our live streams. This is a Canon R800. This camera, which is right out of shot, which I can't lean it far enough. This is its twin, but it's an R700. Those are the two cameras that we use to film the players that are on the sides of our live streams. Right above me, right here, is what we call our Tableau camera. That's an R400. That was the very first camera that we used for our live streams. That was actually the main camera that we were using. But we use that as the Tableau camera whenever I have a Tableau and can zoom in, like if you saw the Brass Birmingham live stream that we did last week. But the main camera, which is up there, and the one that we're going to actually use whenever we travel, is a Canon XA30. Pretty nice camera, really nice camera. So again, big shout out to our patrons that helped make that possible. So that's the cameras that we use. The microphones, now for these are Electro Voice RE20s, which are arguably the best broadcast mics out there. A lot of radio stations use them, stuff like that. Again, patrons, thank you. But no, these actually go into what's called a cloud lifter. It adds, it boosts the volume when we record, because these are the podcast mics only. During the live streams, we all have lavaliers or lapel mics, and those all plug into a snake, which plugs into a mixer, which then plugs into a audio interface, which goes into the computer. For the podcast mics, these go into the cloud lifter, into the audio interface, into the computer, and that's that. For these cameras, though, to make these live streamable, what we do is we had to spend an inordinate amount of money for a, what do you call them? HDMI capture, a video capture card that has 4 HDMI inputs for the 4 cameras, and they all have video processors on their own and all that into the desktop. That's why we had to build the desktop. So yeah, other than that, you have to get a capture card, and those are, we found that they're not 100% reliable, which is frustrating, and that's one of the other reasons why we wanted to get the desktop. So yeah, so hopefully that answers a long way to answer your question. Let's see, are there any sort of informal meetup game sessions at WBC? I hope so. You're the first, Scott, that's asked about WBC, to be honest. We're going to be there the entire time. Now, we may take a trip to like Gettysburg and see that and stuff, but yeah, I'll be honest, WBC is 2 cons away for us. We have HeavyCon and we have Origins in between then and now, and so haven't really gotten around to planning for that yet. But yes, there absolutely will be. Remind me after we get back from Origins, and we'll start touching base on that. Cool. Who's cooking for HeavyCon? Hey, Brandon. Brandon from Brawling Brothers. Who's cooking? Not me. The hotel is catering that, sir. I can't do it. Not for 100 folks. Sorry. Although I will say this, one of the things in the swag bag that, nope, not going to let the cat out of the bag, especially if I end up not doing it. So I don't want to set, so never mind. Erase. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, one other thing about the plugging into the microphones into the camera. So we have a H4n Zoom, which we use, which has two inputs, which the mics that we have Shure SM58s that we carry around for whenever we go on the road. Those can plug into the Zoom. But if we want, the XA30 actually has two inputs that we can plug the mics directly into to sync up the audio and video at the same time. So hopefully then to double back. Sorry about that. Let's see. Simon says, my girlfriend asks, when will you be live streaming Dixit? Simon's girlfriend, don't hold your breath. Let's see. Wow, I'm way behind. I'm sorry, guys. I'm being too verbose. I apologize. Any word the last few months on who is going to reprinting Wildcatters? Capstone. Jeff, you keep hinting at it, and all I will say is there has been nothing announced. But if I were you, I would watch our feed and listen to the podcast maybe next week. Maybe. We'll see. What am I most excited about for HeavyCon? Andrew asks. The people? I mean, I feel like that's such a cop-out, but as I go more and more conventions, both just as Average Joe, but also as as one of the people from Heavy Cardboard, it's meeting the people. Playing games is secondary. I mean, I play games all the time here. Don't get me wrong. I love the idea of being able to play games with listeners and viewers and stuff like that. But it's all about meeting the people, whether it's listeners and viewers, or whether it be friends in the industry, whether it be other designers, developers, publishers that we haven't met yet. It's the people. Yeah, it really is. But if I were to choose a game, I'm very excited to have High Frontier taught to me, because that's a game I really don't want to learn from the rule book. And yes, before it gets asked, provided that we're able to get a few games under our belt, yes, we will live stream High Frontier, because we're sick like that. All right, let's see. Brent asks, what is the best method you have found to learn and or teach heavy games? I love them as those my group, but they usually don't have the patience to learn a new game as they just want to jump in and play. Man, that's tough. When it comes to heavier games, it's usually me, but there are others in our group, as you guys have seen in the live streams, that are more than willing to learn games. But honestly, for me, the best way I learn a game, like I know there are people that, like Nicholas, he'll just power through a rule book and he'll be like, yeah, okay, no problem. I don't work that way. I have to be able to have the game in front of me, move pieces and do stuff. That's just the way I work. So I prefer to sit down either by myself or with Amanda or with Matt or whatever. We almost never learn games together as a group, like at game day. It's always ahead of time. So I sit down, I'll go through the game, learn it, read through the rule book once or twice more, and then I'll teach it. I'm the type of person that I would prefer to have a lot of the information up front, and a lot of our group tends to be that way as well. And hence, that's the way I teach on our live streams. And so tell people, I'm sorry, but if you want to get into these heavier games, you're going to have to deal with the longer teaches up front. Because if you don't, then you run into that whole, oh, had I known this, I would have done that different. I mean, what do you expect? You want to jump in, or do you want to learn the rules? So we just say, look, this is how it's going to be. If there are some like edge cases stuff here that really doesn't need to be taught on the front end, we'll wait on that stuff. But for the most part, it's all up front. Yeah, so hope that helps. And hello, Amanda Euler wife. I am not ignoring you in chat. Talking about reprints. Any news on Neue Heimat? Will we see it again? Thought you might have some insider information. I can't say anything whether I do or whether I don't. If we do have any insider information, then I would listen to the podcast and I would watch our Twitter and Facebook feed. Let's see. Hold on. Let me scroll here. All right, Joe, should Antiquity be reprinted in a smaller box? Hold on. Parched. We built shelves in our basement to accommodate the box, so we're fine with it. But no, seriously, it could be, and I'm curious. It would make shipping easier for them being Splotter regarding Antiquity. I have yet to hear anything. The nice news is Jeroen's going to be at HeavyCon next week, so I will ask him and I will answer that for you then. I can't right now. I literally know as much as you. Let's see. Kyle says, we play Kanban for the first time in 8 months. I failed to continually and thoroughly check the many pieces of board state, costing me many mistakes. How do you prevent tunnel vision? It's a good question. When we're on live streams, let's talk about that. It's a lot better when I'm not playing so that I can kind of run and GM the game as well as just worrying about chat and then actually running the game, because it's a lot to tackle. But when we're off camera and we're just playing to play, it still happens. We're human. We still make mistakes. There's stuff that we still miss and be like, oh man, yeah, that was too far. Just leave it. Don't do it again. So it happens. And the other answer I have for you is try and play the same game more than once to try and get it to cement in your head a little bit more how the rules work. Now, we're guilty of it. I mean, we have 850 games downstairs that there are games to where I'm like, yeah, we can't play that. I would need to refresh the rules first. And that's why we try and plan everything via our Slack channel for our local group ahead of time. But yeah, it's just be prepared before you play the game. That's really the best advice. And even then, mistakes are going to happen. But ultimately, you're trying to play the game right, but it's all about having fun. So focus on that more than anything. Oh yeah, Joe just started working for Panda Games. Maybe this could be considered work now. Research, right? Yeah, go with it. All right, let's see. Hey, one of our newest patrons. I can't remember his real name now. Cockbongo. So, hey, glad you finally made it. All right. Taking a lunch break to watch. We appreciate that, Miguel. Thank you. Yeah, so Joe asks, a different Joe here, should Splotter risk upgrading Antiquity after the backlash of the Indonesia mistakes? You know, that's really a good question, because they're in a hard spot right here, aren't they? Because everybody was like, yay, Indonesia. And then they're, in my opinion, now, understand, I am friends with the fellas. But as y'all know who listen to the show and watch the live streams, we call a spade a spade. We have taken it to some of our friends when we feel like the game is less than ideal in certain spaces, be it rulebook components, whatever. That said, yeah, the pieces are too big in Indonesia. But at the same time, if you reverse them, it's totally playable. So, it's not the end of the world to me. This also comes from the guy who has the first edition, so there's that. That said, if I were them, if they were to upgrade any of it, I wouldn't announce it. I would just be like, here's the game, and go from there. So, because they're in a lose-lose, and the food chain magnate blowing up as much as it did caught them unawares. And so now, and I believe that the reprint of Indonesia caught them somewhat unaware. And now I expect them at this point to be like, oh, wow, we're really going to sell a lot of these and we need to really get it right, because they're not some small, tiny, little obscure company anymore. I mean, they're not mainstream, but they're closer to mainstream than they are to way out their niche. So I expect them to take that to heart and to learn. I mean, let's face it, if you go back and listen to the beginning of our podcasts, right? Maybe you shouldn't, but the audio quality sucked, right? Compared to what it is now. We learn, and I mean, just like anyone else. And so there's going to be an evolution, just like there is for them. So while I understand that we all are paying customers and we all have the right to demand X, Y, and Z, it doesn't mean that they need to accommodate everything that we ask for. And so I would say, and this doesn't just go for Splotter, I would say in general, anybody who, there's going to be growing pains. Understand that, and remember that these are real people on the other end. So kind of got off on a little tangent there. Sorry about that. All right. And for those that ask, Matthias says, oh yeah, mule stuff to Essen. Well, last year I offered to mule games, and I think I muled 8 18XX games over, and I'm going to be doing something like that again. I'm not sure who I'm going to make that available to, whether it be our patrons on Patreon, or whether that's something else, or whether that's something related to a potential Kickstarter. I don't know. We'll figure that out. There's 3 of us going to Essen this year, so we'll play it by ear and just keep an ear out. Pun not really intended. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right. And Kyle says, yeah, I poached Tony. Nah, he had already quit. And there's a reason that Tony's only on once in a blue moon, because of the fact that it's his schedule. Let's see. Cool. Glad that answered your question. Let's see. All right. Hit for D-Cycle 1? All right. If you had 1 hour to 2 hours time left in a game day for a board game, not including teaching, what would you choose to play as a meeting strategic Euro? Wow, only one? Dimension, we have about 850 games down there. Man, it all depends on the mood. Let's start there. All right, let's say we had an hour left, and not including teaching, I would say we would play 2 to 3 rounds of Neue Heimat, if possible. But that's out of print, so that's mean. Let's try something else. I was going to say Container. Yeah, that's out of print. That's at least confirmed getting reprinted. Man, I am terrible at on-the-spot stuff like this. We recently played Rococo. We enjoy that a lot. That would fall in that window. Man, let me think on that and see if I can answer it by the end of the stream. How's that? Oh, hey, Netters. Hi. I am doing well. I hope you are as well. Let's see. I totally lost my spot. Hey, there we are. I want to see the new CO2. I do too. So interesting thing. When we first played it, and Vital, if he watches this after the fact, will get a kick out of this. I was pretty new. We all were pretty new to the hobby who played that. And we were all kind of like, not too sure about this, because as a group, we're not too super keen on co-ops. But the idea of we have to work together to make sure the world doesn't end. But at the same time, we all are fighting for our individual stuff. We didn't like that at the time. Now we do. So I'd be really interested to check out the new version of CO2 as well. Looking forward to that. And one thing, we thought Vital was a bit preachy in the rule book about that, but all kidding aside, yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out for sure. Let's see. Hey, Eric. Graham says, or Graham, sorry. I'm way behind. That Arkwright ship has sailed long ago. Shame on me. Yes. And we're going to be also live streaming that in June as well. Oh, awesome. Might be going to Essen. Cool. If so, we'll be at the Spielworks / ADC Blackfire booth. We have a meeting space there and everything. So that was real awesome of Uli to offer that to us. So we're excited to be a part of that. Last year, we were with our friends over at What's Your Game? This year, we're going to be over there with Spielworks. So looking forward to that. Although, let's face it, the 2 hardest working people that I saw while I was at Spiel last year were Bonacor from Stronghold and Uli Blenneman from Spielworks. Those dudes never stopped moving and never stopped meetings. It was incredible to watch. It was crazy. Let's see. Biggest lessons learned so far. What would you do differently? Now, Andrew, I have a question for you before I answer that. In regards to what? In regards to the podcast, the live streams, gaming in general, or what? I'll let you answer that, and then I'll come back to that. Post HeavyCon Age of Steam live plays? You betcha, Jeff. We're actually talking about doing one of those this week. We're not sure which map, but yeah, definitely. Looking forward to that. We definitely want to try and bust out 2 or 3 of those a month and keep that consistent, maybe even more, because let's face it, there's 160 or so maps, and we want to be able to showcase them, and people seem to really be enjoying them. So awesome. So we will keep showing them off. Have we reviewed Burano? Surprisingly deep and heavier than thought. Underrated, I think. We didn't quite review it. It came out in Essen 20. Let me get my years right. So 15, and I played it, and I loved the concept of it, but we thought that it was a bit undercooked, and it needed some more developing. So we decided not to review it, but we did talk about it on an episode after Spiel 2015, but so maybe check around then. I can't remember where. If you go to our website and search for Burano, I think it'll be on there. You'll be able to find it that way. Yeah, we're excited about the next game coming from them, but yeah, we weren't super keen on Burano. Tresham interview is something I'd pay for. Me too. Yeah, UK Games Expo. Hopefully next year. We'll see how that goes. I don't want to promise though. Let's see. Yeah, super happy with the mics. As you guys can hear, obviously I can't, but I have heard our podcast, and Amanda does an amazing job making those sound good, although she does have a lot better source material to work with. So there's that. Pretty excited about Origins. Brad says it'll be his first trip. Ours too. So we're looking forward to it. We're not scheduling a whole lot. We're going to be hanging out a little bit at the Capstone Games booth, as well as wandering around and apparently eating good food, because that's what you do at Origins. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. Hi, Zachary. Have we tried Port Royal? Have not. I know Tony had when he was on the show and talked about it and said he enjoyed it, but, or at least I think he said he enjoyed it, but no, we have not. Sorry. Andrew, I like where your head's at. So on April Fool's Day this last year, or this, month? A little over a month ago, month and a half, whatever, you get it. April 1st, 2017. We did a full play live stream of Monopoly. Played it true, played it straight up, and played it by the rules correctly for the first time ever. And had a blast doing it. The game was terrible, but it was, 2.5 hours? So, Dixit, April 1st, 2018. I like where your head's at. Let's see. Adam, have I heard anything about GMT's next 18XX game? Yup. Let's see. Frankie, will Capstone and Spielworks work together in terms of printing for continental distribution? I mean, he's already picked up Arkwright. He's picked up the Cole series, which 2 out of 3 are Spielworks. So I won't say that there is a, and this is me just talking out loud. I don't know the details of their relationship. I know they're friends, just like I'm friends with Clay and Uli. But as far as professionally, I imagine maybe he gets preferential. I don't know, but I imagine you're going to see more out of that partnership. But then again, you look at Spielworks and Stronghold Games, there's a partnership there too. So the way I see it is, because if you listen to my interview with Uli from Spiel last year, he has an intentional business model that works. It's 1,000 games, and then he is more than happy if somebody else wants to pick it up and reprint it and do more worldwide distribution, then he's more than happy to do that. So that model works for him, but as long as the games are good, people are going to pick them up and reprint them. So it's a win-win for all considered, whether it's us early adopters or whether it be people that want to wait until somebody like a Capstone or a Stronghold or whoever gets their versions of it, or reprints it and makes their versions, I should say. All right, so I'm a little behind. I talk a lot, Amanda, all right? For people getting into heavier games, perhaps pick game systems, Age of Steam. That way, the gamers know they're learning a rule for the whole host of games. I think that's a great idea, John. And if they don't want, if they're scared for whatever reason for Age of Steam, then I would say, you know, there's Railways of the World, there's Steam. I'll be honest. I've never played Steam. I've only played Railways of the World. And at this point in our lives, there's no reason. I have a cat that wants out. Excuse me. There we go. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to wake you up, Asher. All right. As far as systems goes, Age of Steam is a fantastic system. And I imagine there's going to be something like Tramways that is coming out with new maps and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that's very cool. Let me see. Brant says, did you say in the last episode that we backed Gloomhaven? Uh-huh. I'm teaching my daughter how to play right now. I think you're going to enjoy it. The reason we were willing to back it is a lot of folks, both in the guild, on Twitter, in the Patreon Slack channel, everybody, a lot of these heavier gamers are like, yeah, I actually really, really enjoyed it. So I was like, okay, cool, done. Then we'll back it and we'll give it a try. We also have 2 copies that we're giving away at HeavyCon downstairs. Very excited about that. Thanks, Isaac. If you do have an opportunity to talk with Tresham, would love to hear your the story about Civilization as well. Yeah, me too. Trust me. I have a ton of questions already worked up for that interview. Development of Civilization. Totally agree, Adam. Let's see. Did we find the new version of Brass different enough to own both? Okay, so let me give a caveat here that we own the original Brass, and we actually, as you guys saw in the live streams, got to try both Brass Lancashire and Brass Birmingham. If I owned Brass, the original, there really aren't enough changes other than a aesthetic change that would force me to pick up Lancashire. However, Brass Birmingham is much like how we're talking about Age of Steam has different maps and different, it feels like the same core, but it's definitely its own game. That's exactly what Birmingham felt like. And I'll be honest, that has been really popular with our local group for Game of the Month, as well as during our regular game days. People are wanting to play Brass Birmingham, and they're really enjoying it. So to answer your question, if I didn't own the original Brass, yes, I would have gotten both. I would recommend getting both. They're different enough. If I owned the original, if I wanted the upgraded graphics, yes, I would. If I didn't care about that, then I would say just go for Brass Birmingham, because yes, I do feel it's different enough. So hopefully that helps on that. What's the cultural heritage of Euler? I'm guessing Germanic. Yes. And I'll be honest, without getting into the history of my life, I had a real messed up childhood, and so I have a bit of a family forest more than a family tree. And so Euler is actually my stepdad's name, and I was never formally adopted, hence the drama that I had to go through to get my passport last year. Long story short, because I respected him much more so than my biological father, I chose to take his name when I had my legal name changed for my passport with Euler. And so therefore, I don't have a lot of connection with anybody on that side of the family, unfortunately, because my dad has passed away a number of years ago. So I don't know a whole lot of my family history because most of my family is dead or in prison at this point, honestly. So I do have one connection, which is my brother, which I'm going to be mining him for this information, which I've done once before, but it didn't stick, so I need to make better notes. But yeah, it's Germanic. Whereas my biological last name, or, heritage, I believe has a mix of somewhere in Scandinavia, as well as Russian, as well as a considerable amount of Jewish, but I don't know the exact locations of all this stuff. So, yeah. So hopefully, I will say this: I wish I drank beer. If for no other reason, then there's the Yule Festival, I think it's called, or Ul, up in the mountains every year, where it's the Norse god, I think, or it's Uller or something like that, to where we would never have to buy beer if we went to it. Unfortunately, I don't like beer. I know. I drink wine. I drink spirits. I don't drink beer. I never got a taste for it. Sorry. Who's the third for Essen? It's me, Amanda, and Matt are going. Let's see. So where's the Essen Heavy Cardboard meetup in Essen, and what do you guys drink? It's going to be the exact same space as it was last year, the Friday of Essen at, I think, 7 p.m. at Fitzpatrick's. We have the entire back room. I fear that we have outgrown that. Last year we booked it for 80, and I arrived 5 minutes before the event was supposed to start, and I didn't have room to sit at my own event, which, good problem to have. But yeah, we'll see how this goes, but that's where it is. Fitzpatrick's Friday of Essen. It's going to be a good time. So we're going to have the Golden Elephant Award with us, but we don't know if the designer will be attending or not. So we may not hand it out, but we can show it off. And we're also going to be announcing that and having that shown off at HeavyCon as well. So cool. All right, so let's see here. Brad, did I miss any MOA talk? No, actually, MOA right there. So the latest from Martin Wallace. We got a copy from Ape Games, and we're actually going to be live streaming it. The plan is this week. We're not exactly sure what day. It all depends on how tomorrow goes with work. So we'll see how this goes. Worst comes to worst, it'll be this weekend. But yeah, it's kind of it's an area control game it's got a bit of lightheartedness, but it's basically the Maori Wars. So if you guys have ever followed my Anticipation Geek list on BGG and you go look on there for Maori Wars, that's the serious version, whereas this is the much more abstracted and amorphosized, I think is the name, to where you give animals human traits to make it a little bit more less historic, in a sense that it's less serious, I think is a good way to put it. We enjoyed it. It's an majority area control game, so therefore it's probably going to play better with more than the 3 that we played it with. So we're going to play it one more time before we stream it and go from there. So now, Brad, you're caught up on the MOA talk. Any update on Tony's Indonesia retheme? It's not a retheme, it's its own game, Indonesium. And no, there hasn't been. He has not brought it up, and Jeroen and Joris have had a copy of it for the last year. When they come next, or when Jeroen comes next week, I will ask him. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. And Matthias, we appreciate you being a patron. Thank you. Netters Play, has there been any games that you're interested in backing, and are there any that you've backed that turned out to be great disappointments? The disappointments is longer than I care to share. I'll try and stay positive. So any games that we've backed, or interested in backing, Card City XL, MOA, oh man, there, and see these off the cuff answer. I'm sure there's going here. List me some of them, and I will tell you whether or not we're backing them. How's that? Because I am terrible about thinking of this stuff on the spot. That's why the podcast is recorded, right? Let's see. Brad, I've heard similar things about the Good Food at Origins. Pretty excited to try out North Market. That's the name of the place. Yes, Brad. I'm looking forward to that. I will say, as much as I'm looking forward to that, the place that Rolf and Andre, from the designers of Wildcatters, where they took us while we were in Essen for a dish called Schweinshaxel, and I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. It's basically a hunk of like a pig, big huge shank knuckle thing, has fried skin crackling on the. It's so stupid good. So I'm really looking at that. Like, that is the meal I'm looking forward to most in the calendar year 2017. But I'm looking forward to the North Market as well. Oh, Joe says that he drives to Columbus just to eat there. Okay, awesome. That bodes well. Literally the next negative thing I've heard about the food at Origins will be the first, so I'm looking forward to that. Let's see. Yes, Matt, that is your stupid cat. That's okay. Let's see. What did we think of The Gallerist? We enjoyed it enough to go out and buy a secondhand copy. So there's that. Haven't played it a ton. That's why we haven't reviewed it on the show. That's actually one that we could do either before the con season really hits as far as new releases. So we're talking June, July timeframe, or it'll be in the in the spring of 2018 when we review it, just for the simple fact that once Gen Con and Spiel and the games that really hit our wheelhouse start coming out, we tend to focus on those, and then the other half of the year tend to be more established games. So yeah, that's one we definitely want to review, and let's face it, it's Ian O'Toole's artwork, and it's amazing. Can you guys post either your website or BGG a list of upcoming videos you plan to shoot? William asks. Rado does this, and it's fun to know what we have to look forward to. Yes, we will definitely be doing that, especially now that I'm going to have more time at my disposal. I plan to be, I'm not going to say more organized, but be able to plan out things better, and definitely looking forward to that because, I mean, it's a win-win. It helps you guys be able to track along, be like, oh yeah, hey, okay, in 3 weeks, I want to make sure that I set aside this Tuesday or whatever. But also it helps us to be able to drum up, interest for the game and get people to watch live, because we enjoy, if you guys, William, if you haven't been a part of the Peanut Gallery during the live streams, it's been a lot of fun and we really enjoy interacting with y'all. So yeah, it's a win-win for both sides. So that's something that's definitely going to be coming probably the week following HeavyCon. I can't really promise too much between now and the end of May, but after that, definitely. All right. Let's see. Yes, I agree. Going back to brass, Mr. Keddington's art is really, really good. He definitely set the bar really high for box covers and what those should look like going forward, or they have the potential to look like going forward across the board, regardless of who you are. That's fantastic. Wow, I'm way behind on these. Whew, sorry about that, y'all. AKA camera guy. Yep, and gopher. Thanks, Matt. Alan says, is this Q&A open to any questions about the show? Yes, but that makes me nervous. But yeah, sure, ask away. And if it's something that's, out of line, then, whatever. But I like, so far so good. So sure, yeah, ask it, Alan. Joe Wiggins says, 1849, haven't played it. 1880 or 1844, haven't played it. If you were planning on running a game this weekend, 1880. But if I had my druthers, it'd be 1822. Boy, do we like that game. Did you like the salty sausages? Giovanni, you're going to have to unpack that a little for me. All right, Luke, thanks. Any live streams or live reporting during HeavyCon? Yeah, and we touched on that, Carmen. We're definitely going to try and live stream as much as we can. It all depends on how good the Wi-Fi is and whether or not it can handle it. If it can't, we're going to just record a crap ton of video and audio and have fun with that post-con. So definitely. When do you get to try Captains of the Gulf? Well, seeing as Mr. Dinger is coming to HeavyCon soon. He actually sent us a prototype, but it's actually outdated, so I'm going to play the latest greatest with him, hopefully at HeavyCon. So looking forward to that. Hey, Bruno, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a while. Let's see. He says, if you don't drink beer, how can you buy one at Essen? How can I buy you one? You come to the dinner, the place, and I have no idea the name, that Andre and Rolf and I went with Clay to, actually had dark beer that wasn't terrible. Like, I could handle doing a single flight, one of the little ones of it. You can buy me a drink. It just doesn't have to be beer. That's all. Yes. Schweinsoxel. Oh, I can't wait. All right. Berlin in the house. Welcome. Ellen says, what was the hardest time keeping the podcast going? And where did you and Amanda find inspiration to keep going? Wow. So when Tony was leaving the show, all right, let me give you all a little background on this, and it can be fun story time. So I knew eventually Tony was going to quit the show, just nature of the beast, and it was starting to grow bigger than he ever thought it would be, and it's bigger than I thought it would be, but not as big as I thought it could possibly be, and how big I want it to be. That said, I didn't anticipate him quitting when he did. He texted me one night, hey, you want to meet for dinner? And I was like, yeah, sure. All right, cool. And then on the way, I was like, wouldn't that be something if he quit? Huh? I sit down, hey, how's it going? Hey, all right, we shoot the breeze for a little bit, and then he hands me a piece of paper. Here. I was like, uh-oh. And I knew what it was. It was his resignation letter from the podcast. And I was like, so my first thought was, oh man, what am I going to do? Second thought was, okay, who do I get to replace him? And I was like, wow, this stinks. But I also knew it was coming. I just didn't anticipate it when it did. So then it transformed into who do I get? Because I don't want to do the podcast by myself. Who do I get? And I ran through some ideas and everything and got home, waited till Amanda got home from work. I didn't let her know. And I just said, hey, come here, sit down, read this. And she was like, oh no. And I was like, well, you know who the obvious answer is to replace him, right? And she goes, yeah, me. I was like, wait, what? Huh? And you got to understand that Amanda, as she has recently spoken about, has mental health issues. That makes it sound bad. That she has BPD, and so the idea of her actually being a host on the show never occurred to me because she's very, very much an introvert, and podcasting isn't really conducive to introverts. And so I was like, wait, are you kidding me? What? Where did this come from? And she's like, I don't know. I just feel like it's the right thing to do. And I was like, I really don't think you can do it, but okay, let's try it. So when we recorded Lignum, Tony and I, during his on the way out the door type thing, Amanda and I also recorded a episode 0, like a test episode of Lignum, and she blew us away with how good she could articulate her thoughts. And so I was like, wow, okay, maybe this is the direction we go. So I'll be honest, it really hasn't been a question of what's the hardest and how did we find a way to persevere through it. We've gone through some personal stuff for sure during the life of the podcast that has made it tough to get back into the saddle. But at the same time, it's now become one of the main things in our lives. If not it's like our life truly revolves around the podcast and the YouTube channel at this point, just because of the fact that we're trying to grow it, and I'm trying to get it to where I can be a full-time producer of Heavy Cardboard. So all of our free time just about revolves around, and has for the last year to 18 months, of building Heavy Cardboard up and getting it to where I can do that. So the idea of it not being here is pretty foreign at this point. So that would seem odd, I think, that it wouldn't be here. So when we were transitioning, building up the studio that you see here and everything, both, especially me, but both Amanda and I and Matt, to some for lack of a better way to say it, we were all chomping at the bit to get back into it, because we're like, hey, we got to start putting stuff out. We've been off the air, so to speak, for two weeks when we were going through building everything. And so, yeah, it's just a part of our lives at this point now, to where it'd be weird to not have it in our lives. And since I'm trying to do it full time, if it were to go away, that would put a wrinkle into that. Cool. All right. So hopefully that answers the question somewhat there. Oh, hey, Adrian from Mile High Game Guys. Wow, we got a lot of y'all here. Awesome. Matthew Ward from the guys down in the Quirk in Albuquerque. Good. Our playthrough of Moa might push you to back it. Our job isn't to sell it. Our job is to show it off. So we'll play it straight, obviously. So hopefully, that'd be cool. Good deal. I like it. I appreciate the feedback, Matt. Oh, those sausages, Giovanni. Those were tasty. I enjoyed those. Thank you. Sorry. Are we backing Clans of Caledonia? Just played High Treason. Thanks for your playthrough. Awesome game. I totally agree, Casey. And yes, I am backing Clans of Caledonia. I'm looking forward to, I've been looking forward to that for the better part of a year. And honestly, the designer reached out to us and asked us if we could review it. And our schedule was such that I was like, look, I can't promise. Plus, I just don't know if we could, so we passed on it. So I'm really looking forward to actually getting a published copy and talking about that there. So, and Matt says, got to see if they have a hardline there for live streaming. They do. It's just not cheap, and we'll see if it's in the budget. Talking about HeavyCon. Kickstarters, we'd back. Container, yeah, obviously. And actually, we may be able to show that off for Mercury Games here down the road. So stay tuned for that. Kyle says, recently played Cuba Libre for the first time. Maybe I missed it, but I've not seen much opinion on coin from you guys. So this got asked last episode, months ago in the Ask the Elephant, and people know that I have somewhat cooled on the coin system just because I'm not sure how I feel about the you get one shot, swing and miss, and you might be stuck for the rest of the game type thing. And honestly, we haven't made the time to play enough of them, and they've been coming out so fast that we haven't been able to tackle them. That said, with me taking this 2 months off of work, well, I shouldn't say off of work. I will be producing content full time, but you understand. This will be my day job. So we're going to be tackling more coin and more war games in general. So stay tuned on that, and we will have more for you there. All right, cool. Down the road. Water it is. No, Bruno. You can buy me some hooch. It's okay. So Joe Wiggins, trying to troll me, says, a little deeper dive into your feelings on 2019, the Arctic. The graphic design was terrible. It impacted play, and the rules are terrible, and we had a horrible experience. That is one of the only games that I truly wanted to quit in the middle of the game. So there you go. There's my abbreviated thoughts. Haven't played it in the better part of 1.5 to 2 years, though, and don't have any interest. Hey, Kieran, I hope you can get some video of Call to Post since Jim's bringing it. I definitely will, as long as he's okay with it. That's definitely, and honestly, I plan on interviewing Jim about the game as an up-and-coming designer for the show, so that'll be cool. Mike J says, have you thought about using Kickstarter and Indiegogo? Yep, it's definitely something. We're tossing about the idea of running the Kickstarter in September. We'll see. Whether or not there is enough support to do it at that point. So enough on that. Losing weight has really worked out for you. You should update the host picture on the website. Good idea, Amanda. If you're still watching, get on that, please. She is our web host. Co-host, shipping manager, artist, like graphic design artist, and audio engineer. I talk and prep. Social media. That's it. I'm the social butterfly. Let's see. Good call, Yorick, there, though. If you could have one designer, producer, board game media personality move to Denver, who would it be? Oh, that's a good question. And wow, way to put me on the spot on only choosing one. Man. I'll think on that and I'll answer before the end of the show. How's that? Do I ever play games online via BGA and apps and stuff? Almost never, Marco. For the simple fact that for me, board games are a group thing, or if I'm playing solo games, it's more of a tactile thing. Whereas if I'm playing online games, I would much rather play something like Horizon or, Skyrim, real video games. So I have yet to really get into that at all. It's just not really my thing. Not interested. Sorry. Although there are people who keep trying to push me into it, and I might try it once in a while, but convince me. How's that? Peter Slack says, wait, Containers on Kickstarter? No, it is not. It will be, and look for it possibly towards the end of the year. That's all I can say about it. All right, guys. Alan, thanks for the answer and your honesty. Podcast has been a staple in my life as well as everyone here, and it means a lot to hear you be so open about the challenges. I appreciate that, Alan. And that's one of the things that I feel like sets us apart, but we don't do it to set ourselves apart, is Amanda and I just being open about us and our lives, a lot more so than other people. We want a personal connection with our listeners and viewers, more so the listeners, just because podcasting is a more intimate media. Plus, when we're on video, it tends to be outside of something like this, obviously. But when we're doing our live streams, that's just kind of us playing the game. So there's not a whole lot of reflection time and a lot of stuff like that. So when it comes to the podcast, it's not something that ever has been discussed, honestly. It's just us coming through on the podcast. Now, Amanda being willing to talk about her BPD and stuff, that I told her I would never mention that unless she wanted to, and that's something on her time and on her timeline, and totally if it's something she ever wanted to address. But as far as the weight loss and just the trials and tribulations of life and what we go through and everything about, the struggles of the show or, a lot of our lives, we think, and here's how we think of it, is we enjoy hearing that from people on the other side of the microphone on some of the podcasts that we listen to outside of board gaming, inside whatever, just podcasts in general. And we appreciate that kind of connection that forms. And it just seems natural to us, and we enjoy that connection, hopefully, as much as y'all do. I mean, for those that don't enjoy it, then there's tons of other podcasts out there. Absolutely, go enjoy those. But for us, and we don't feel like it dominates the show, but it definitely adds a little, I don't know, a little personal us to it. And that's just our thing. So good. I'm glad that people respond to it. Honestly, some of the most awesome comments or emails or anything that we've gotten was regarding the weight loss stuff and how it's brought husbands and wives closer together because they've found stuff that they can do together, and it's just enhanced their home life and it's just that. It's amazing, right? I mean, to be able to have that kind of impact on somebody's life, seriously, and we're just talking board games. This is unbelievable. So it's fantastic. So yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, again, long story for a short answer. All right, Doug Redshirt. I was one of the people who got to help playtest Pericles. My group was disappointed. Just not in the same class as Churchill. We gave up and not one of us bought it. Interesting. All right. I appreciate the feedback. We haven't played it yet. GMT was nice enough to send it to us for us to review, so we're definitely going to do that. So I'm curious to be able to judge it on its own as well as in comparison to Churchill, since it's built on that same system. So cool. All right. Let's see. Carmen, Game Surplus. Hi, Carmen. He says, how many meetings, interviews were scheduled for Spiel 2016 and best estimate for 2017? Do you anticipate much less free time? Quite the opposite. So I think it was 20 or 22 interviews that we had scheduled. Got all of them done. And this year, I imagine it to be about the same number, maybe a couple of more. And I don't think I'm going to have less free time or any more. It's just there's going to be a little bit more. Yeah, I guess a little bit more because there's three of us going as opposed to just me who has to get all the games as well as interviews and all of this stuff. So having a assistance with that and having Amanda do some of the interviews if she wants, and having Matt be able to work the technical side of things, that's going to be a huge help, as well as we have three of us to get games as opposed to just me. That's going to be invaluable. So I would say probably not less free time, but not more. We'll see. Essen, but so far away though. That's like 5 cons away. I'm super excited about it, obviously. I'm not looking forward to the flight. I've found that I cannot sleep on a plane. Do you know how frustrating that is when you're going across the pond? Had a muscle relaxer and 3 bottles of wine and still couldn't sleep. Anyway, Magnar says, any games you reviewed on the show but have now later changed your mind about? Oh, I'm sure that there's going to be some amount of evolution regarding that, and that's something that actually I want to start doing is going back and looking at some of those, and okay, here it is a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, whatever, and kind of updating that so we can have our initial rating and our updated rating. So that's definitely something that we want to do. In fact, I'm gonna make sure that I don't forget that. Hold on one sec. All right, good call. All right, Moolinger says, playing board games is about seeing the white in the eye of the player across the table. Totally agree. And I mean, it's a social event, right? It's our way of social gathering, and it's just I much prefer to play it in person than online. Yorick, yours and Punching Cardboard are 2 very human podcasts. Theirs is a bit more chaotic. Will you be running a spiel preview again with them, as it was great fun to listen to? If they want to, absolutely. Jim and Eric, especially Jim, because we've actually hung out with Jim a number of times. We've become really good friends with, and Eric apparently exists. I hear him back on the show, so I've never actually seen him though. And he's supposed to be coming to HeavyCon, but he couldn't due to work this year. So next year we'll see. But provided he actually exists, then yeah, hopefully we can do a joint preview like that again. That's a good idea. Good call. Were you ever able to get around trying Tricarian, and did we enjoy it? Yes and yes, but only limited plays. So that's something else that we definitely want to revisit when time allows to be able to get a review of it. And that'd be awesome for a live stream too, huh? Yeah. So Giovanni asked a good question. When will we get Edward versus Internet live plays? I think that's an awesome idea, and it might not be me versus the internet, but because I'm terrible when I host live streams usually. What we are thinking about doing is hosting, like choosing one patron at random or something like that, and them in chat, and I play as them. Like I have no thinking. They say what the turn's going to be, and that's that. Or we could do something like the internet as a whole, the peanut gallery, they choose my moves, and that's that. So that's something that we definitely want to look into doing down the road for sure. So cool. Marco says trying to convince me to play Madeira online. BGA has a really good implementation. I'll tell you what, once I'm clear of HeavyCon, send me a message and we'll see if we can hook it up, and I'll give it a try. How's that? All right. Giovanni asking for a friend. Do you know of any good naval themed war games? I know. Oh shoot. The Fleet series is supposed to be amazing. It's an older series, I think, from the mid '80s. But if you have time, I've heard that's fantastic. Adrian from Maha Game Guys. I know you guys tend to not like co-ops, but do you have any that you at all enjoyed or that you think fall on the heavier side of the hobby? I think I can speak for Amanda in this, that the only one that we have moderately enjoyed was Freedom, the Underground Railroad. Because of the theme definitely gets enhanced. The fact that what you're doing, I mean, you're trying to free the slaves from the South, and I think that's awesome. And I spoke to this a little bit, or maybe a lot of it, last episode on the podcast about how I appreciate more controversial themes like that, even though that's obviously less controversial because you're freeing the slaves as opposed to being on the other side, which that probably wouldn't be so kosher. But I do think that that theme is something that should be made into a game. I think that's a fantastic way to then talk about the social issues or whatever the issues are there. I think that's great. So that's one we enjoyed. I do know that I think it's Ghost Stories is supposed to be impossible. Slight exaggeration, but yeah, co-op's just not our thing. Now, Gloomhaven is one, so we'll see how that goes. Looking forward to that. So we'll see. He says, as far as online play, it's nice for when your significant other or gaming partner runs off to work in other parts of the world. Fair point. If we did not have the game group that we did, then I could imagine that I would be a lot more into gaming, board games online than I am. So that makes sense. Totally makes sense. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying for me. Let's see. All right. Well, there you go. Wooden Ships and Iron Men. There you go, Matthew. Good call on the doubling back on the naval warfare. A Splotter co-op. Don't put ideas like that in their head. Stop that, Scott. Let's not go there. Will we do a lighter game day live stream again? It was good to see some fillers like Docmus and Arboretum. Sure, I definitely could see that happen. And we're also going to be doing some live streams of war games. It may or may not be me and Amanda again if it's during the day, because my buddy Brian is also going to be fun employed, or is currently, like I'm about to be, having some 2-player war games. Definitely is something that we're looking to. But yeah, another filler day I think would be a lot of fun. I think that'd be cool. Awesome. Wow, I've caught up. Look at that. What do we think Gentis is going to be like, Jeff? I have high expectation just because of who's designing it, which is Stefan Riesthaus, designer of the 2014 Golden Elephant Award winning Arkwright. So really high expectations. Excited about it. We've seen the cards. We helped do some of the translation on the cards for German to English and stuff. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it, though. But again, this goes back to one of the questions that got asked on the podcast about do you ever get really excited about games? And I try and temper that nowadays so that I'm not that doesn't influence our reviews. I try and keep it a little bit more even keeled so that I'm not super high and, oh, wow, it's still a good game, but it's not as good. And so now it kind of leaves a taste in my mouth. And so I try not to do that. There is one game that I mentioned that I'm having a hard time tempering, although there are some friends of mine that are doing a good job of tempering my expectations of that. And that was Stellar Horizon. Massive space exploration game that's coming from Compass Games, supposed to be in 2018. So yeah, so long story short, I try not to get too excited about games. And getting new games physically in the house, it's cool still. Don't get me wrong. It will never lose that, oh, wow, what is this? Oh, yeah, looking forward to seeing that. But at the same time, it's not I can't wait, that type thing anymore, because let's face it, we get our fair number here. So it's not like, oh, got another game. It's never going to be like that. The moment it's like that, I'm doing something wrong. Filler war game, a Memoir 44. I would rather say Commands and Colors Ancients. Do we have any channels to getting games to you? I have Eberron with your name on it with better rules. Oh, I hope they are. Scott, check out the website. Our address is on the website if you ever want to send us something there. We can't promise a time frame if it's not something that we request. But yeah, we promised to at least take a look at it. And it's a game that I legitimately am interested in. So yeah, sure, go for it. Yeah, no Phoebe today. He did win. Phoebe did win the Scythe giveaway though. That was cool to see. What do you think about the older Knizia titles like Tigris and Euphrates and Stevenson's Rocket? Never played Stevenson's Rocket, but Tigris and Euphrates we actually did a trailer on, so you should go listen to that. Case Blue, not happening. Someone tried to play Memoir 44 at our brewery game night this past Wednesday. It was weird. What made it weird, Adrian? So let me double back now on one designer, publisher, media, something like that I would like to move to Denver. I'm looking at stuff on the wall over here, and honestly, because it can only be one, so that immediately like rules out like Nuno and Paulo, because how could I choose just one of them, right? I would say Vital Lacerda, because the dude games a lot, but he spends a lot of time designing games, which is a downside because then wouldn't be able to play games with him as much. Whereas Jeroen from Splotter, that dude is a machine. He plays the gamut. He just all over the board. So maybe somebody like him. Uli from Spielworks, he plays a ton of games, and I love the quote he used for smaller games that he just doesn't. If it doesn't have a ton of meaty decisions, he doesn't have time for it. He would rather just play a few turns of a game as opposed to a smaller game. I mean, I enjoy my smaller games, so I can't say that I'm 100% on board with that. But yeah, man, that's tough. That's a tough question. So Brad says he's got significant component concerns with Stellar. We'll see. I mean, it's next year, so we'll see. What's my German-English relationship, or are you just doing better English on the translation? No, just doing better English on the translation. As far as they're like a card, like this is a farm, as opposed to other, that type thing. How do we feel about the game Imperial, Ryan asks. I feel that I need to play that more. It's been a couple of years since we played it, so I've grown a lot, as has Amanda, since we've last played it. So it's one that we would love to play for like Game of the Month and then be able to review it after that. I think that would be awesome. Let's see. Have you ever had to pause during rules reading because something felt missing or you've had to ask for clarification? Yep. That is one real cool perk about being the host of Heavy Cardboard is we have direct access to a lot of folks to where I can just email or text or tweet or GM or whatever, all these things, all these different people and be like, got a question about this. And yeah, that definitely helps. Now, obviously, a lot of the designers that we enjoy, not all, but a lot, tend to be overseas, so we might not get the answer right then, but we'll get it the next day. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It's definitely sometimes I'll read something 4 or 5 times and then I'll be like, okay, I can't get this. Hey, be Amanda, Matt, someone else in our group, ask them for their interpretation. And then if we still can't figure it out, obviously we look at BGG. If it's not there, especially if it's a new game or a prototype, then it's just follow your heart at that point and play it to the best you can. I hate having to do it, but that's why we play these games so many times, so that if we do stuff like that, hopefully it's only in the first play or two that happens. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I don't know how people game regularly at a brewery. That would be so loud and impossible for me to do on a regular basis. That would be rough. All right, cool. So that's it. Wow, this went for almost an hour and a half, guys. I didn't expect that. I planned on doing it for an hour. So, yeah. Wow. That was fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Yeah. So for those that don't know, we do this monthly with all of our patrons, all our Patreon supporters. So right now, we had 176 when I started. So anybody at the $5 and up level, we do this monthly, and I try and do this, once every few months with y'all, just to show y'all what it's like, as well as, to interact with just everyone out there. So if it's something that if you guys enjoy what we do, be it the podcast, the live streams, the YouTube channel in general, or whatever, consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/Heavy Cardboard. Don't forget to subscribe down there. Also, especially for the next 2 weeks, there's not going to be a whole ton of heads up on when we're going to be live streaming stuff. So remember to set the subscription reminder so that it tells you, hey, these guys are live. So when we go live. So yeah, hopefully for those here in the States, I made your workday a little bit easier. For those overseas, I'm glad that y'all tuned in, and hopefully it made your evening a little bit better. This was a lot of fun on my end, and yeah, definitely enjoyed it. So thanks everybody for stopping by, for watching, and we'll catch you all here soon on another Game Day Heavy Cardboard. Cool. Catch you all later.